Human-wildlife conflict three-day conference kicked off today in the capital. The conference, which is being hosted by the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism, is set to strategize on how to curb human-wildlife conflict, which has become a more frequent occurrence in Namibia in recent years. Now, to give more details on the conference is the Chief Public Relations Officer in the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism, Mr. Romeo Muyunda. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Nina. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. Perhaps to start with, you can briefly talk to us about the latest statistics when it comes to human-wildlife conflict and the areas which are prone to such attacks.
Yes, thank you very much. The human-wildlife conflict is an increasing phenomena, as you have rightfully said, causing concern to the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism, as well as to the public at large. We have recorded a lot of incidences, both in terms of livestock losses, crop losses, injuries to people, and in unfortunate circumstances, we have seen losses of people's lives in terms of these attacks. We have, as a ministry, paid to this day a total of over 25 million in offset amounts, which tells you that the cases of human-wildlife conflict really are a challenge, and dealing with them is equally a challenge, and that is why we are hosting this conference. In terms of statistics, really, especially this year, we have lost at least 5 people from incidences of crocodiles, especially in the northeastern regions of Kavango, western Kavango, east regions. Crop damages, I think we have about over 90 cases so far this year alone, and in terms of general reports that we have received. In the northeast, in the Far Zambezi, we are receiving a number of reports there in terms of crop damages from elephants. So in general, human-wildlife conflict is really a big concern in the country at the moment.
What are the current circumstances that give rise to or contribute to human-wildlife conflict?
Yeah, the circumstances that are leading to this are in twofold. Number one, it is the issue of growing population of human beings. And the other one is the growing population of wild animals. You know that as a ministry and as a country, we have done so well in terms of preserving these natural resources or our wildlife. And as a result of the two growing populations, there is competition for resources. And this is also worsened by the recent droughts, recurring droughts in the country. We know that in Namibia, we have been experiencing a lot of droughts leading to a decrease in vegetation. And this will result in animals or wild animals migrating in search of pastures or grazing areas, or even looking for livestock to predate on. On the other hand, humans are also, the population is growing. And as it grows, we are looking into issues of settlements, starting new settlements, starting new agricultural activities, even industrial activities. And most of the time when we start these new activities, we encroach onto the habitats of the wild animals. And this causes more conflicts to occur. Mm-hmm. So these are some of those issues or factors that are leading to the increase in human-wildlife conflict at the moment.
The conference is set to come up with a national policy on human-wildlife conflict management. What are some of the issues that you were looking at in terms of policy formulation?
Yes, we have, just for the sake of the viewers, we have initially implemented the national policy on human-wildlife conflict in 2009. Which we reviewed in 2018, and this policy really looks at specific interventions that will assist stakeholders in mitigating the challenge of human-wildlife conflict. But the policy also identifies the fact that for as long as human beings and wild animals are going to coexist, there's always going to be these conflicts. But what we are looking in terms of policy formulation is to look into what are the strategic interventions that we can put in place, not only as government, but as stakeholders, to ensure that we minimize the impact of human-wildlife conflict on the livelihoods of our people. So we want to look into issues of offsets amounts, and most people will refer to it as compensation, which has been very difficult in terms of implementing a compensation policy. But what we do as a ministry is to offset, which means we assist the affected people in terms of paying them set amounts for specific types of losses or destruction. So we are going to look into these amounts as well, which are currently in the 2018 Human-Wildlife Conflict Management Policy, and see how possibly we can revise them. We are going to look into the specific conflicts that exist in the country. I've mentioned that we have elephants, we have predators that exist, and also coupling this with other factors that leads to these conflicts to occur, and how do we then find a solution to this recurring problem.
Are the communities, and especially those that live, in the conservancies and national parks, forming part of the discussions?
Yes, we have conservancies invited, not only conservancies, we also have community forests, we also have traditional authorities, we have councillors as well representing those communities. So in terms of community representation, I think the conference has thought of their representation in full, and we believe that those that are representing them will bring the ideas that have come from the grassroots levels in terms of how we can assist them and how they can also contribute to the challenge of human-wildlife conflict. Among others, also we have regional governors and chief regional officers as well. We have had ministers, cabinet ministers also coming. Today we also had the vice president opening the conference officially. So in terms of representation, I think we have gone far and beyond to try and find everybody that is a stakeholder in this element of human-wildlife conflict, especially those that are affected at the grassroots levels.
Just lastly, Romeo, overall, what is it that you'd like to achieve in terms of an outcome with this conference?
Yeah, I think if you look at our constitution, which is also empowering the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism, and that's where our mandate comes from. It speaks about protecting natural resources for the benefit of the people. And so far what we have been doing is to ensure that we protect our wild animals so that people benefit. But human-wildlife conflict is jeopardizing those benefits for as much as they are benefits, but they are also overshadowed by the element of human-wildlife conflict. So what we want to ensure is that we come up with recommendations that are workable, implementable, and that will inform policy formulation, that moving forward, the incidences of human-wildlife conflict do not really impact the livelihoods of our people. And the benefits that come from preservation and conservation of our natural resources should outweigh the cost that these communities are facing. So this is what we want to achieve. We want to ensure that we cultivate or we generate a community that is benefiting from coexistence instead of being disturbed by these animals.
Mr. Muyunda, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
That was Mr. Romeo Muyunda, the Chief Public Relations Officer in the Ministry of Environment, speaking to us about the National Human-Wildlife Conflict 3-day conference that kicked off in the capital today. We'll be right back shortly.